All right. Well, here we are. We're back for another episode of Transit Gateways through CloudFormation. This one might be an interesting session, and I'll tell you why. We're having some weird issues. It's been a couple weeks since we've been doing this work, and I'm not quite sure what's happened. So watch this. I'll show you. Flip over here, right? Here's our pipeline. So I'm getting ready for the stream, redeploying the transit gateway and all the bits and pieces that we had built already. Right. So I'm thinking I'm ahead of myself here. It's great, right? No big deal. And what has happened is if I go over into here, I'm getting a really weird error. It says the transit gateway, there's our ID, does not exist. Okay, I thought that's a little odd. So if we go here and we look at perfect timing, let's get logged back in. Let's just, for safety's sake, we'll do that. Give me a second. Never fails, right? Let's go back to our demo account. All right, here we go. So what I was just going to show you is if we go to VPC, we're in the central region, right? So everything's deployed in CA Central 1, and we go to Transit Gateways. So here's our transit gateway. It ends in CF131. Now, if you recall, if we go back over here and we go to CloudFormation and we look at the failed stack, what it says is it's trying to create private route 3 and private route 2. They both say the same thing. The transit gateway ID, TGW, blah, 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 CF131 does not exist. So I'm not quite sure what has happened here because when we were building this out a couple weeks ago, everything worked fine. So we got to try to see if we can figure this out today would be my goal. Okay, so I'll show you kind of what I was doing. I was working over, I think oh, there it goes. Just took a minute. So what does it say? Private route 3. So what I did, let's just kind of review how we're doing this. So we've got a single template. Here it is here. Okay, so this is our transit gateway template. It's not challenging, right? We set an ASN number and we deploy it. No big deal. Okay, and we override some parameters. Nothing too sophisticated here, right? So that's the first thing. And then what we do is we deploy 3 VPCs, what we're calling our internet VPC, our finance VPC, and the marketing VPC. And if you remember from the earlier streams, what we did, or what we're trying to do, is essentially centralize all the ingress and egress traffic flowing through what we call our internet VPC, right? Not very creative with the names, but it works. So the internet VPC deploys successfully. Not sure why, since they're all using the same templates. The only difference is you'll notice here that this is set is public, is yes. And when we do our finance and marketing VPCs, we define these as not public. They don't have public subnets, they don't have internet gateways, they don't have NAT gateways, because what we're going to do is route all of the traffic through that internet gateway. So that's the only difference. We set this is public, no. Okay, but if we just compare, the rest of this is exactly the same. Okay, so I'm thinking it's something to do with this, that probably what happened was we made a change right at the end of the stream and I committed it into the repo and then haven't looked at this for 2 weeks. You know, my plan was today to go back in here and just refresh my memory because it's been a little while and that didn't work out. So I think what we need to do is we need to have a look at this parameter that we're passing. And I think I've just messed something up. And you can see here, again, it's nothing fancy, right? We override the owner in the owner email. So these are just the standard tags that we do. We have the CIDR notation for the VPC. Let's just break this down into a couple different lines like this. So we've got our 2 public subnets, 2 private subnets, 2 protected subnets. And then we say is public and TGW stack equals the stack name. Okay, pretty simple. And the marketing one looks exactly the same. We'll just add the line there. Private, private, we'll make them look exactly the same. We'll do this. Right? There we go. So those are the 2 things that are failing. So if we go over to the VPC template, what caught my eye? So these are the 2 that are airing out. And basically the condition is when it's not public, we're going to deploy these resources. So let's see here. Here's our 2 private subnets. We create those regardless of the condition is public or not public. Okay. And then we run here. And what it's saying is there's no transit gateway ID, right, that sits here. And for the life of me, I can't figure this out. And you'll see we did a kind of a stupid thing up here. We basically said is public if a parameter value, where is the parameter value? Just shrink all these down. There's a shortcut for this, but I can't remember what it is. So there is public. And all we do is we set it to yes or no, right? If it's yes, it's public. If it's no, it's not public. I'm sure we could use like a not or something like that would be better. But anyways, this seems to work because it at least deploys the resources, but it's failing, right? So this is where I'm stuck and I can't figure out what has happened here. And this is just a straight import value. So you're using the intrinsic function import value. And all we're doing is we're pulling in the name of the stack and the output from that stack that we're calling, in our case, Twitch TGW -ID. So let's just check that. Go over here. Yeah, it's easy, right? There it is. Under resources, we have our transit gateway. We set up the flow log for the transit gateway, and then there's just the single output. Yeah, very, very confusing. I'm going to commit this just because this is our attachment, which doesn't matter at this point because we can't actually run that. But let's just do this. Okay. And then if we jump over to Firefox, we'll have to delete this stack. And then we should have a new pipeline running here. Oh, okay. So yeah, maybe that's where we left off. Maybe we had done something in this attachment YAML file. I don't think that's the problem, but let's go fix that up because it's not letting us run our actual deploy. So I think for the time being, what we'll do is we'll just go here. There's our attach. Actually, let's check the attach file. Transit gateway, attachments. What did it actually say? Resource, internet route type, transit gateway attachment, null values. Yeah, there's a lot in this template. So I think for the time being, we'll just remove it. And then let's just make sure. I thought we had made it to the attachments. Yeah, see all these attachments? So these are gonna, oh, what a pain. Okay, we're gonna do this. Okay, Okay, so there's our quick fix for this. So we'll just put it in a stage that doesn't exist. Will that work? That probably won't work. That'll probably throw an error. I think what we need to do instead is go like this. We can put, this is really silly, but we could do this. Right? And we can say only do this on, let's call it the dev branch. Because we're just pushing all of this off the main branch. So we'll just say only dev. And we'll move all of these into that branch for now. These won't matter, so that's fine. Let's see if that fixed our problem. It did not. Oof. Oh, wow. Man, I must have done something right at the end of that. Never a good idea to change something in your code right before you call it a day. So what this is meaning now is we've got, oh, what a pain in the ass. We've got a whole bunch of jobs defined that are basically requiring propagations. Okay, so what we have to do then is we have to go in here and we have to do the same thing. So we can go like this. Man, I messed this up somehow. What did I say? Dev? I think we just put these on dev, right? Try this again. All right, there we go. At least it didn't fail immediately. So now what we've done is we've removed all of the attachments and all the propagations that we had, I thought, working last week, but one step forward, two steps back, right? So that should have now. Okay, so let's see what happens. I'm expecting this still to fail because we didn't change anything, right? But let's just see what it does. We can delete all these just to keep this cleaned up for now. Just get rid of all this. And probably by the time we're done this, our VPC would fail. There we go. Private route, the transit gateway does not exist. You can see right here in our output, transit gateway ID 0CF and ends in 131. But here it's telling us the transit gateway does not exist. I wonder what I've done wrong here. So the transit gateway, we've put everything in one account, so it's not an account issue. we've got everything in CA Central 1. If we go over to VPCs, you can see, wait a second. What the? The internet VPC worked because it doesn't have that route table piece. So there's the finance. Oh, okay, that's rollback in progress still, so it hasn't actually deleted that. I think what we'll do, let's just try something to see what happens. Let's go over to our VPC attachments, or our VPC. And what we're going to do is we're just going to go in here and we're going to comment this out. And let's see if I can remember the keystroke for this. That's not it. So when all else fails, we'll do this. Doesn't matter. We can create those again quite easily. Okay, so now we have the private route, but we'll only deploy this in the event that the VPC is marked public. Okay, so let's try something. And just before I redeploy that, wow, it's taken its time on the back here. This is still rollback in progress. We have to wait for this to finish because if this is in rollback in progress mode, when we try to rerun the pipeline, it's not going to work. It's going to complain. There we go. Took a while. So we'll delete that. This one doesn't matter. That's fine. And our internet VPC worked. All right, so let's repush. Okay. And then should have a new pipeline. Yeah, there we go. I just want to see, it's got to be something about the way we're defining, the way that we're pulling that value in or something. Like I can't figure out why it's telling us the transit gateway doesn't exist. Okay, so if we go back over here, here's our marketing VPC. We should have another change set. Oh, this is the old one. So let's go here. This should be new. And I'm just looking, see here, it says private subnet 0, private subnet 1. So let's execute this and just see what happens. Might as well execute them both. See, there's the private subnets. They get created, no problem. I would assume both of these are going to come to life without an issue now. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, there's the finance VPC. This guy probably won't be very far behind. So it's something with the transit gateway ID that we're passing into that route table. So let's do this. Let's just have a quick look and see if they give us an example of a condition here. I don't think it's the way we have the condition defined. It's not the best way to define that condition, but it works, right? And the reason we know it works is the fact that it actually deploys those pieces for us, like the route tables. See, we can use equals or nots. We can use and statements. It's pretty basic, so maybe it's something in the way we're doing that import statement. So let's go back over here. Actually, sorry, let me flip back over here. And we'll do AWS CloudFormation. Is it a route table? It's not a route table. It's a route that we're working on. So again, really simple, right? We need to provide the transit gateway ID and then the route table ID. And the transit gateway ID is simply the ID of the transit gateway. You know what we could try? Let's do this. VPC. We should have all of our VPCs here now. If we just pick one of these, doesn't matter. Actually, let's go like this. We'll go the finance VPC. And actually, let's look at the route tables. And we want to look at the private route table. And because we removed that route table definition, this has no route, so it only has the local route. So what we can do is we can go edit, and we can sort of mimic what we wanted. Transit gateway. No transit gateway. Why is there no transit gateway? I can clearly see a transit gateway. Owner account. I'm in the right account. What is this? You can specify /24 CIDR block or larger. You can associate any public or private IP range except for the 169 range, blah, blah, blah. I don't even know what that is. All right, so when all else fails, let's do this. Actually, I've got CloudFormation open, don't I? Delete, delete. We're going to get rid of our VPCs. And we're going to get rid of our transit gateway. I shouldn't have deleted those VPCs. We could have just tested maybe something happened here. So let's clean all of this up, and then we'll just rerun the pipeline and see what happens. This is disappointing because a couple weeks ago we had the basic routing in place and it was working. So I deployed something in, let's say, our marketing VPC, and we were able to route the traffic out the internet. I could see us having this problem if we were sharing this across multiple AWS accounts, because then we would have to use the resource, is it called Resource Access Manager, RAM, to share it. But I don't think in the same account we'd need to do that. Okay, well, while that's doing that, is there anything else that maybe I missed? I am. We've got CloudWatch, our transit gateway, the VPC, and then the propagations, which at this point don't matter. Transit gateway is taking its time here. Okay, there we go. So let's run the pipeline again. We'll just redeploy the transit gateway and one of the VPCs. It doesn't matter what one, because the thought is maybe, I don't know, maybe when I deployed this, something didn't work, but that also doesn't seem likely. So I'm not quite sure what happened here. So let's go back over here. There's our transit gateway. And the template's really easy, right? Got a bunch of parameters, the gateway itself, and the flow log. So let's execute that. Now we've got to, actually, we don't have to wait for it anymore. So I'm going to leave the internet one because it's a little different. So I'm going to say not delete. We'll stand the finance VPC up. And what this will allow us to do is just, again, check to see, even if we just went in after and manually edited this route, to see if the transit gateway at least shows as a target for our route. That's really all I'm trying to do. See if this works. Man, this takes forever while you're waiting. Okay, so there's our VPC. So what I could do is go back over here, cancel this, get rid of our filters, and we should have a new, oops, gotta refresh. Route tables, well, we only have the one VPC, so it doesn't matter. And then what I want to do is I want to modify this route table. And we're just going to see if the transit gateway shows up as a target here. So we'll go over here. Still going? Okay, there it is. It's up and running. Here's our output. So it ends in A67. Let's edit the route. And we can say if you're trying to go anywhere other than the VPC, go talk to the transit gateway. And we still don't have one. Oh, this is really weird. Okay, so let's try something else. Let's do this. Transit gateway. This is the one, this is deleted now because that came off of our template. We're going to create a new one. DNS, don't need that. Do you know, do we have multicast turned? I don't know, let's see. I don't know if that would make a difference, but where's our original transit gateway? I just want to see what is enabled on this transit gateway. So we go here. Nope, okay, so it's got DNS, VPN, ECMP support. Doesn't matter, I don't think. I'm going to turn it off, and actually, let's make it exactly the same. So it looks like this. Okay, we don't auto accept. We don't need any transit gateway CIDR blocks. We create the gateway. And let's see. What I'm doing is I want to see if we create it from here, and then we go back over to the CloudFormation, or not the CloudFormation template, but into the route table. Does this appear as available? I don't see what the difference is here in what we're doing. And I'm sure the last stream this worked, so I'm a little confused. Oh, you know the other thing we didn't do? We put a custom ASN on that transit gateway coming from the template because Amazon's recommendation is to create a unique ASN for all of your transit gateways. If you have overlapping ASNs, then in the future, if you wanted to connect those together, you could still make a peering connection. But in the future, when Amazon supports BGP routing, which I don't think they announced at reInvent, which I was kind of hoping for, um, you can't do dynamic routing between them if they have overlapping ASNs. Again, I don't think it's going to matter, but let's do this. CloudFormation, sorry, back here. Too many windows open now. Hold on. Route tables. Private route. No results. So now I'm really stumped. This is going to be something really, really stupid. None of this should exist because what we've done is we've created what we call a private VPC, right? It's not public because we want all the traffic to route through the transit gateway. Let's turn this off. And they actually recommend that this is for sharing. Like if I wanted to share this transit gateway with another AWS account, that's all this is, right? And really, you wouldn't want to turn this on anyways because you don't want to automatically accept any sharing requests coming from something else, right? You want to have the process where you have control of who or what you're sharing this with. So, okay, so let's modify it. All we did there was, I already forget, turned off VPN ECMP support. If we go back over here. See, this is a transit gateway route table, which is different than what we're working on. We're working on a VPC route table because what we have to do is we have to say, if you're in the VPC and you want to go somewhere outside of the VPC, go talk to the transit gateway. And then, oh, I know what it is. Oh my God. Man. Okay. Yeah. So, remember how I said about the attachments and the attachments weren't working? So don't worry about that. I think I know what this is. We have no attachments. Oh my God. So let's just do this. Bet you the transit gateway shows here. And this is our first one. This is the one that we want, right? So let's go back over and just say delete. Oh my God. I think I know what the problem is. I don't know. I'm totally not sure anymore. So what we're doing is we're associating a VPC with the transit gateway. So there's our only VPC. And then what you do is you attach it by associating it with subnets. And we're going to associate it with our two private subnets. What's happening here is the transit gateway will deploy an elastic network interface, ENI, within this VPC in these subnets. Let's do this. Create an attachment. You know, it always amazes me, no matter how much time you spend working in AWS, right? This is all I do every day. you still have these issues. Like it's amazing to me how something you look at often and then you just run into a situation you're like, why isn't this working? It's always the most simple thing you can think of. Wow. So if this works, then what we need to do is we need to rethink our template strategy because our templates won't work. Okay, so now I've attached the transit gateway with our VPC. Now let's go back and look at one of these subnets, edit the route table. Nope, oh, not the right place. Route table. Oh, this is the association. I want to go here and actually go routes, edit. The 0 route goes to, I think I associated to the wrong one, but you get the idea. So what's happening here is we can't create the route to say send all the traffic to the route table until we have the VPC associated or attached to the transit gateway. Okay, so cancel. And then let's go back over here and we're just going to clean these up again. We're going to say delete. We're going to say delete. We do not, actually we can deploy the internet VPC because that doesn't matter. Actually, it does matter. So we will delete the internet VPC as well. So all we're left now with is the transit gateway. And if we go over here and refresh, you know, it's interesting. Okay, let's see if we can figure this out. I think what we need to do is we need to simplify. Let me go over here and show you. I think we need to simplify the way that we have some of these templates set up. So the original thought was, you can see based on the names, right? If we go finance VPC, so here's our transit gateway. Okay, great. And then we have the finance VPC. So one of those private VPCs that we don't want to have direct internet access with, we want to route all the traffic through the transit gateway. So here's this, okay? And then we have this. We have a transit gateway attachment. The problem with this is that we need to attach or associate the VPC with the transit gateway before we can add the route table, right? Not add the route table, sorry, but we can add the route table, but before we add the route that says go talk to the transit gateway. So let's have a look at how we're doing this. This is just a generic attach. Oh, see what we've done? This is why you don't make changes just before you end the stream. So we've got the attachment here, the route table, and then what we started to do here was creating our actual routes. No, that's not true either. This is a transit gateway route table. This is the transit gateway attachment. So we almost need to do something like this. So we associate we attach the transit gateway to the VPC. This is the transit gateway route table. So let's do this. Let's change this name. We're going to call it TGW route table. Okay. And this is where we're associating the transit gateway route table with the transit gateway attachment right here. I have no clue what this was. So for now, let's just do that. What I'm thinking is every VPC that we're going to create, you know, we want it to be associated to the transit gateway. So what we maybe do instead is we create the attachment here. We create the TG route table and we associate the TG route table with the attachment. Okay. And then once that's done, then we can associate or create the VPC routes that say, if you're trying to go anywhere other than the VPC, go talk to the internet gateway. The question is, where should that exist? I almost think we should try to put that in here. You see what I mean? Like if I just get rid of this here. Originally, we had the route tables. The route tables get created up here. See these here, right? Private route table. So there's private route table 0, private route table 1. And then what we do is if we say it's public, we add the default route points to the NAT gateways. That's fine. But in our case, since these aren't public, we want to have this associated with the transit gateway, but we now think that we can't do this here because we've got to have the transit gateway associated or attached to the VPC first. So I almost think that we could create the private routes, sorry, the route tables here. Do we have them in the outputs? Public, private. Okay, so here's our route tables. These are outputs, right? So I'm almost thinking that in here, what we could do is we could say something like VPC route table. Let's just call it route. And I think we're going to need 2 of these. So this is type. Actually, we can just copy it out of here. Let's borrow all this. Okay, so there's no condition here, but this does depend on the attachment before we can do anything else. And then we just say the properties mean if you're trying to go anywhere, transit gateway. Oh boy. I think it's just transit gateway ID. Yeah, transit gateway ID equals, and we can just borrow from here. This is our input function, right? We can do that. And then the route table also comes from VPC stack, which we're already importing. And in this case, we need to get this. So it's just private route table 0. Like that. And then we could copy the whole thing. This, one of the things, if you've seen this stream as we're working through the transit gateway, I'm not completely convinced of the template strategy we have here. It feels a little, well, you can see already, right? I leave this for 2 weeks, come back and try to remember what the hell we did. And it's like, huh, did that work before? So let's try this. So what happens is this is where we attach the VPC to the transit gateway. Then once we have the attachment, we should be able to update the route tables for our private route tables and say if you're trying to go anywhere, the default route for the private route tables is the transit gateway. And we have to do that twice because we have 2 private subnets, 1 in each AZ. Okay, so there's that. And then what we do is we create the transit gateway route table, which is different. Okay. This is basically, the first thing is, how do you go from the VPC to the transit gateway? And then this is the route table that's associated with the attachment. So now that traffic flows, let's think of it this way, the traffic flows from the VPC to the transit gateway. The transit gateway then needs its own route table to say, okay, if you're coming from this attachment, I know where to route traffic. So this is all we're doing. We're creating a transit gateway route table and associating it to the transit gateway attachment. We have no routes there at this point, but that's all this does. So I think now what we could do is we could go back over here. Let's get rid of the propagations just to keep this simple for now, as simple as we can. And we'll do this. And we'll say modules, networking. I don't even like the folder structure for this. Attach. Right? Is that it? Modules, networking, TGW, attach. That's this. Okay, so that's the first thing. Let's put some stuff in here too. This it's getting hard to read some of this stuff. At least in marketing. Okay. And we've got our attachment already for finance. We just moved it here. So I think what I'm going to do is just to kind of keep this stuff together a little more. Let's do this. Maybe not. Let's go like this. Okay. We'll get rid of that. Stack name. None of this should change, I don't think. So let's try this. What did we do? We made a lot of changes here, right? So we I'm sure somewhere in here there's a typo, but let's see what happens. Now, you know what? We need to check if we have an attachment here already, it's gonna not work. So we need to delete this attachment so that when our pipeline, assuming our pipeline works, this will do the trick. Just give me one sec. Let that delete and then we'll check our pipeline. When calling unresolved dependencies, route table, attach. So I've screwed up in the template here. What's it saying? It's saying template format, unresolved resource dependencies, route table in the resource section. Am I looking in the right place? TGW attach. Okay, let's look for route table in here. Oh, duh. Yeah, remember I changed the name? So we called this TGW route table now. So this no longer exists. And let's do, because we might have a couple things in here, we're going to call this, yeah, let's leave that for now. Let's have another look at this and see what happens. Hopefully by now. Okay, so our attachment is gone. assuming that this will work for us now, what we could do is hopefully... Oh, did it fail again? Did. Route table. I'm losing my mind tonight. I really am losing my mind tonight. Okay, so route table. What did I miss? Oh my god, look what I did right here. So we've got it depends on. I don't know why I'm wearing my headphones. I'm like sitting here going, oh man, my ears are killing me. Not listening to any music. See what I mean? I'm losing my mind tonight. There we go. I think, you know, the more I think about this, we kind of were creating things last week a little out of order. So I almost wonder if we didn't see this error last week. This transit gateway thing doesn't exist. I got total like dent in my head from the headphones. I'm wondering if we didn't see it last week because maybe the order I deployed some of those things. Oh my god, it's just the demo gods are against us tonight. I'm wondering if the order in which we deployed some of those things last week, just we didn't end up seeing it, right? Transit gateway route table ID in the resource block. What did I call that? Oh. Okay. Man, oh man. Could the third time be the charm? If you've ever been on the stream before, you know this is normally how we spend most of our night. It's fixing spelling mistakes and bad cuts and pastes and stuff. Ugh. This is why it's important to build all of your templates and test them ahead of time because they do take some time to write. Even better, have somebody else write them for you. Okay, there we go. We made it past the validation stage. This is all there. This is there. We got to wait till we get to these guys. Did we leave one of our... No, we didn't. We deleted... There's our internet VPC. I'm going to leave that one alone because it's a little different. We'll wait for... So now we can deploy our VPC and then attach it to the transit gateway with the other templates. So at this point, I only have the finance attachment. So we'll deploy the finance VPC and then deploy the finance attachment and see if this works. All right. So there's step one. I guess in theory, we could deploy these now, right? Because they're all working off the same templates. So these are now hopefully going to do what we want. So let's deploy all of these. Once these are deployed, or at least once this guy's deployed, we can test our new theory on the attachment. Okay, so there's our VPC deployed. Before we do anything, let's go over here. Okay, they're all coming to life. Here's our finance VPC. We should have... Yeah, that makes sense, right? Private route tables should be empty. The protected route tables should be empty. Okay. Now, let's see if we get lucky here. So what this is going to do is create our attachment first and then update the existing routes with the new default route. I don't know if this is going to work. At this point, I will be surprised if it works. Pleasantly surprised. It's nice when it doesn't fail immediately on you. It's always fun. So the attachments I find take a little while to spin up. So if we go back over here now, and we go down to attachments, there it is. Okay, so we're attaching our finance VPC to our transit gateway. Okay, so now that we have, well, that's interesting. I wonder if we needed a couple, if it works, that's fine, but it's creating the route table. And it can't actually associate that transit gateway route table to anything yet. There we go. Transit, that's the route table association. So what we've got now is we've got the attachment, we've got the transit gateway route table, and we've associated the transit gateway route table with the attachment. So if we go back over here, select this, transit gateway, there's the route table that it's associated to. Question, there we go. That, okay, I think we got it. I think we got it. So now if we go back to route tables and we go private, let's refresh this. There it is. Okay, so now we're saying if you're trying to stay within the VPC, that's a local route. If you're trying to go anywhere else, go to the transit gateway. Okay, that's good. And then on the transit gateway side, we have the transit gateway itself. Forget the deleted ones. We have an attachment, which again, it's not refreshed for us. Oh, I've got a filter on. There we go. This is our attachment. So this is the VPC attached or associated to the transit gateway. And then we created a route table. There's a default route table, but we're using non-default route tables. And this is associated to our VPC attachment. There are no propagations, there are no prefixes, there are no routes. So what this means is if we were to stand up an EC2 instance in that finance VPC, it would be able to talk to anything in the VPC, but the moment it tried to get out of the VPC, it would know to go down this attachment, but the route table wouldn't know what to do with it. So I think what we could do now is let's finish our other attachments. So we need an attachment for the internet VPC, and we need an attachment for our marketing VPC. And then we've got all three VPCs attached to the same transit gateway. So let's do that, because now that we've got, in theory, this sorted, we should be able just to go back and re-enable these. So let's go here and we're just going to do the same thing. We'll say TGW propagations. And this is, let's reorder these so they're all the same order. So this is finance propagation. This is our marketing propagation. We're not going to worry about these right away, but we might as well just get them sorted out. There's our internet. And then we can do the same thing up here. So this is marketing. It might make sense to put these in different little include scripts. This is starting to get, our CI script now is what, almost 250 and change lines. So it might make sense to break these up. So if we remove this, that should, oh, did I do that wrong? No, that's the internet. Just labeled it wrong. There's nothing like deciding you're going to stream and spending the first hour of the stream trying to figure out what your thought process was from the previous stream. It's high quality time spent right there. All right, so finance is done probably by the time we go over here. There's our marketing attachment. There's our internet attachment. Now, if you've never used the Transit Gateway before, first thing to know is that each of these attachments you will be charged for, right? Oh, hey, Father Goblin, how are you? Yeah, let's blame it on reInvent. Yeah, let's do that. I have been watching a lot of content, so yeah, been one of those days. Uh, Father Goblin, what was the highlight for you? I know it's kind of over at this point, right? Probably a few sessions tomorrow, but what was the highlight? If you had to pick one thing. I'm assuming that you watched some of the content, or maybe you're even there. I don't know. I got logged out. Just bear with me a sec. All right, we should be back to life here. You watched all the online content. Wow, good for you. I caught some of the. Oh no. Okay, so the internet didn't work for some reason. The marketing did. I watched some of the keynote stuff. Ended up having a much busier week than I thought. Yeah, you know what? Good choice. I know pre-pandemic, the last time we went, it was insane, and we didn't get into the sessions we wanted to. And like you said, you can watch all the content in really short order. I don't know. It's hard decision. I like to go just to kind of experience it, but I'm with you. The large crowd thing isn't necessarily a whole heck of a lot of fun. So our marketing attachment worked, our finance attachment's already there. What happened with this guy? Ah, okay. So yeah, this we need to look at because it's a little unique in the way it's set. So I think what we'll do, yeah, let's try to fix this because without the internet gateway or the internet VPC being attached to the transit gateway, then we're not going to be able to route traffic through it to the public internet. So we'll have to just figure out these route tables. Okay. You know, I really liked the. I did watch every day. I flicked on the build on live stuff. I really enjoyed that content. I think it's really informative and fun content to watch. Okay, so let's see if we can figure this out. Now, since we're using all the same templates to deploy our VPCs, this might be interesting. So first things first, we are attaching the internet VPC through the private subnets. And I think I'm going to change this at some point. Yeah, you're right, he does. Jackie, the two of them together too are just, I think they're fantastic. Great hosts. So we're going to change this because Amazon does recommend now that you create transit gateway subnets where the only thing that's in those subnets is basically the attachments for the transit gateways, the ENIs. So, you know, the reason we didn't do it is a really silly reason. I didn't want to figure out the CIDR math when I started this, but at some point, I think we'll revisit this and just kind of fix the templates to go into the proper subnets, the transit gateway subnets. But for now, what we're doing is we're attaching to the private subnets. I think what we need to do is we just need to change this here. And we want all of the private subnets, regardless of whether it's a public VPC or a private VPC. I was going to say we want all that traffic to route to the transit gateway, which actually I don't think is the case. I wonder if this is going to be a situation where using a single template and just passing different parameters into it might not work in this particular situation for that public VPC. So let's just have a look at, well, sorry, not public VPC, the internet VPC. So let's have a look. What we've got, here's my thought process. Right? We've got the public subnets, which we still need. That's where our NAT gateways would live. And those public subnets, their route tables should say, if you're trying to go anywhere, 0, it's the internet gateway. Our protected subnets are probably not required for this, so we might be able to change the script. The idea of what we use protected subnets for are for things like, if you were going to put a database or something like that, you wanted something that could only communicate with other resources inside the VPC. So it doesn't really make sense to have the protected subnets in our internet or public facing VPC. Okay. So let's do this in pieces, because I think one of the challenges we ran into last time was just the fact that I think at the end I made too many changes all at once, and that's where we got, or that's how we got into the situation we're in now. So let's do this. So what I want to do is I want to say up here, if it's public, this is, I just don't like these conditions. If it's not public, deploy the protected subnets. Okay? So what we can do is we can go like this. We can just add a condition. How did I put the conditions in the other ones? Under type. Okay, so we'll do this. Right. So those are the two protected subnets. That also means then that we don't need route tables. Why am I going to just do this? We don't need the protected route tables, right? Public, private, we don't need this because there's nothing to associate at this point. Oops. I'm on the fence with this strategy as well, because, it's nice to have a single template for this stuff. And the idea is that we could use this template to deploy all sorts of different VPC scenarios. But again, the template's starting to get pretty long. It's, well, how many lines is it now? Oh, 600 lines. So the longer this thing gets, the bigger this gets, the more challenging it is. You can see already just with us how it becomes tougher to manage. I did this differently. Oops. Okay, there we go. I want to do like this. Okay, so let's do one thing at a time. So what we're going to do here is we're going to say fix. Okay, let's try this one first. So if I've done this right, all we're really going to do is we're going to delete the protected subnets from the internet VPC. And then that gives us a little bit of a cleaner scenario, and then we can figure out what the route tables need to look like. I think the route table really is unique in the fact that in the internet VPC, what we want is we need routes to say, if you're trying to get to the other VPCs, go talk to the transit gateway. But then we also need the route that says, if you're trying to talk to anything else, you got to go out through the internet gateway. So this one might be, again, this it's going to be interesting to see how this pans out. I thought we would do this series of demos in a pretty quick little couple weeks, and it's turned out that the solution in theory is not challenging, but actually building the template to do all of this, and I don't know, maybe I'm making it more complicated than it needs to be, but it feels like, ooh, okay, yeah, that's right. It feels much more complicated, just the template itself versus what we're trying to build. So what we're doing is we're moving all the protected resources from our internet VPC. So that in theory should do the trick with this. You know, Father Goblin, we were talking about crowds and stuff. You know, another thing that I didn't want to have to deal with from where I am, it's not a long flight to get to Vegas. It's about 5 hours. I'm on the East Coast, and I didn't want to deal with the crazy airports either. So it was another reason why we decided this year just to stay home. All right, so let's go here. We'll go back to our VPC. We'll filter again on the internet VPC, and we'll have a look at the subnets. That's a little better, right? Because now we've got the public subnets, the private subnets, and the private subnets are what we're going to associate to our transit gateway. Okay, so let's sort on this. Now what we have to do is the public subnets are easy. Everything goes to the internet gateway. This is where, yeah, okay. So this makes sense. So this route is fine, but this is where it gets challenging, because what we're saying here is that how do I want to think about this? Assuming traffic's coming from the transit gateway through the attachment, which is going to happen into this private subnet, it would now know the routes, right? If you're trying to talk to something in the internet VPC, you have your local route. And if you're trying to get to something other than whatever's in the internet VPC, go talk to the NAT gateway. The NAT gateway sits in this subnet, and it knows that, again, if it's trying to get to something outside of the internet or outside of the VPC, go talk to the internet gateway. So that's fine. So we actually don't need to, in the route table, in the attachment, change any route tables, but we only need to do that for the internet VPC. So I think in this case, what we're going to end up with is I've tried to put everything into the same templates. And I think in this case, what we're going to need is we're going to need a separate template for the attachment process of the internet VPC to the transit gateway, because there's something else we'll need to do here in this. We need return routes. So you have to think about, let's say somebody in our marketing VPC wants to go to, I don't know, Google, right? So in theory, what it'll do is it'll go from the marketing VPC to the transit gateway, to the internet gateway, and out. And then when the traffic comes back, we need return routes. So right now, it doesn't know how to get to the marketing VPC 10.99. So we need to put those routes to get back. So I think what we're going to end up with here is, let's call it an attachment template for any VPC other than the internet VPC. And then we need a slightly different attachment template for the internet VPC. So I think what we could do, right? So let's do this. So what we'll do is we'll call this, we'll refactor this and we'll call it private. I'm going to check all of these anyways. I don't trust these. And then what we'll do is we'll go copy this and we'll call it public. Okay. And then in this case, if we're looking at the public attachment. We still need to do all this. We need the attachment, but we don't need these particular routes. We need other routes, but we're gonna leave it like this for now and just make sure, make sure this deploys first. Okay. And then what we need to do is go over here. Yeah, see what I mean? It's the refactoring is weird. So we need to go, what would I call this? Attach / private. Okay. And then that means down here, this then becomes, because we're considering both the finance VPC and the marketing VPC to be private, right? And the internet VPC is our public VPC, so it can do this. Right? I think that will do the trick. Let's try it. Let's see what this does. The theory sounds good. But again, the kind of day we're having here, you never quite know how this is going to pan out. Well, we made it through the validate stage, which is always a plus. Sometimes that's the hardest part. So the only thing really that we'll see change here is this. I'll check these other attachments if we do this. I'll check these to make sure there's no change sets generated for these, but in theory, this should be the only thing that actually gets modified, because before it failed, right? Patience. We need some patience here. Oh, there we go. So let's just check these ones. We shouldn't have change sets. Yeah, okay, that's fine. That's fine. Now we have two change sets here. We'll take the most recent one, route table association, transit gateway attachment, transit gateway route table. Perfect. So execute that. And I think at this point we'll have our 3 attachments, assuming this works. I think last time it failed almost immediately, so this is a better sign. And yeah, it's doing what we saw before, right? The attachment takes a little bit of time to come to life. So here's our new attachment pending. Okay, that's good. I think that'll work then. So what we need now is we need to figure out the routes that we have to add to our internet route tables, the route tables that we've created that need basically to say, hey, if you're trying to get back to the marketing subnets or the marketing VPCs in the finance VPC, where the heck do you go? So we need that as well. Okay. And what I'm thinking here is we essentially need, if we go up subnets, we need to modify these public route tables. And what we need is we need to say, if you're trying to get to 1099 and 10100, that's also the transit gateway, and send them back that way. Okay. The question is, this is where it gets tough with with CloudFormation, right? Like, I'm trying to avoid hard coding things wherever I can. So let's see if what we've done in our templates and see if there's a way I could pass those values in as parameters, essentially, right? Ideally, it'd be great if you could just do this in one template and then run the template a couple times. The problem with that is then we end up creating in our simple example, we would have two stacks, right? One for each of the route tables that we wanted to update. And that doesn't scale very well. Imagine if you had, even a couple dozen VPCs that you wanted to set up like this, then you would have a couple dozen stacks that have almost nothing in it. So it's a little tough. So I think what we'll do instead is we'll have a look here. And what we want to do is we want to add these routes. So we're going to put these back, but we're going to change them up. Okay. And what we're going to do is we need to change this. So, and we need this again in both the public subnets. So we end up here, you can see, yeah, this is still going to be a bit of a pain, because we're going to need, we'll need 4 routes, right? Because we've got a route to the marketing and the finance VPC, and we would need to update the 2 route tables. So yeah, not necessarily clean, but it'll do the trick. So we'll do this, marketing, cider. We'll just make these as placeholders for now. And we'll say finance cider. Maybe we'll change these too. We'll say marketing VPC route. Let's make these the same. Do it like this. And this is our finance VPC route. And then we could just do this. So then the question is, how do we get this stuff in? I think it becomes parameters, because what we could do is just go up here and do this is definitely not scalable, but it'll do for what we're doing here. Right, so that's that. And then back here, this is our attachment. I already forget what I called these. This. It might make more sense. Well, no, we'll put them here. Right, and then we have these cider notations somewhere here. So it's 99 for finance and probably 100 for this. Yeah. So we just do this, 99. Okay. Let's see if this works. So, Father Goblin, another reinvent question. So, you watched a lot of content. What would be the new service or feature of something they released that you're most looking forward to using? Something kind of piqued your interest right away? Oh, you already said step function distributed map feature. Yeah. I thought that was kind of neat. I also liked the what do they call it? Pipes, I think. I thought pipes were pretty neat. Yeah. Sorry, I should read back in chat, right? um, I'm interested in the pipes. What was it called? Event bridge pipes, I think. We're doing more and more kind of event driven stuff, so it'll be interesting to see kind of how we could use some of those things as well. Kind of neat. Yeah, so here's our routes. So if I type this up right, should be pretty quick. Yeah, I thought it was kind of neat. Me and one of the folks on my team, we kind of had a watch party. We're all remote, right? So we basically just turned the stream on and jumped in a conference call, and both of us right away were like, okay, this is the season of event-driven programming, and a lot of it was wrapped around that. So both of us were pretty excited about that. Okay, so that's that. That means if we go back here now, refresh these guys, we should have. Uh-oh. What did I do wrong? Did I not refresh? Did I add them to the wrong one? Ah, 99. Yeah, I added them to the wrong one. So I think I need to add those to the public subnet because the traffic goes out the public's from the public subnet through the internet gateway, and it's going to come back and hit the public subnet. And from there, yeah, I put them in the wrong I put them in the wrong route tables. So that's an easy fix. That's just not paying attention when I'm cutting and pasting. So what we've got is if we go back over here, all we need to do is change this. This should just be public route table 0. All right. Public route table 1. Like that. You've wanted to map and reduce state and step functions for a while. I'm always impressed with step functions, like how much that team has done. Like I love all the, we've been using step functions for a while, and having to write all your own Lambda code, but now having all the direct service integrations, pretty neat, right? Like just the as an example, like the Dynamo one. So just being able to drag that Dynamo integration into your step function and just give it a JSON file that represents like the get or the put calls, and not having to write all of that like in a custom Lambda function is pretty slick. So having these types of integrations is really cool. Receiving a file of data and wanting to break down the file into units of work, and then a summary function to verify all the units. Oh, very cool. Yeah. Lots of opportunities, eh? Always new stuff to try out and learn. Okay, so let's see if our update is here. Yeah, there we go. So yeah, we're going to modify our route tables. See if I added them to the right place this time. All right, there we go. Oh, it's deleting the other ones now. Let's see if it's done though. So if we go up here, refresh. That's better. So now we've got 99 and 100 going to the transit gateway. We should see those in both. Perfect. And then on this side, yeah, we've got the private route tables, just knowing to talk to the NAT gateway or local routes. So, okay, perfect. So the other thing that we now need to fix are, so we've got our transit gateway with 3 attachments. We've got 4 route tables. So we've got the default route table, which nothing should be associated to, no attachments. So we've got each of our attachments associated to their own route table. What we don't have for these are propagations and routes. So we need some basic setup here. The thing is that I will flip back over here. I originally had considered, you'll notice here I have propagations, and we had created individual propagation files for each of the VPCs. And I still think that this is the right way to do this part. I think what we'll do is we'll just do a quick sanity check on this to make sure it still makes sense from all the problems we had, and we'll try to deploy them and see what happens. So what this is doing is just propagating routes from the VPC attachments. So this way we know how to get to all the VPCs. Doesn't mean that it's complete at this point, but you can see what we've got is we're looking at finance here. So we're saying, how do you get to the finance VPC? How do you get to the marketing VPC? How do you get to the internet VPC? And these will look pretty much identical for each of the VPC propagations that we have already. I think we can leave this alone. So let's just put it back in here. And we're going to give it a whirl and see what it does. So this then becomes TGW propagations. Right. Now, did I leave these here, or did I just nuke a bunch of stuff? Oh, okay, I did. So all we did here was we put the only piece in to stop them from running. So I'm hoping that this works as is. So let's try this. It's like watching paint dry. Come on. Okay, there we go. So here's our finance propagation. So this is just propagating the routes to all the VPCs. So I'm pretty sure we had this working a couple weeks ago. So let's hope that it does the trick. So what should happen is if we go route tables, we grab the finance one, we go to propagations. So it's basically propagating the routes from the VPC. So now we'll have a way to get to the VPC. And what should happen, find this always takes longer. Let's do the marketing one at the same time. And then this. Now if we go back over here, there we go. So now we've got the finance VPC has propagated routes to all of the other VPCs. So now it knows how to talk to the VPCs. Still doesn't know how to get to the internet though, right? So what we need to do now is we need to add another route that says the 0 route. If you're not trying to go to 100, 98, or 99, go this way, right? And in that case, we'll just create a static route to do that. We should see all of these looking the same. So if we go here, what we're going to do is we're going to say create a static route. If you're trying to go anywhere, we want you to go to the internet VPC. And that should, I'm going to test this just to see what happens. So now I know how to get to all three VPCs. If you're trying to go anywhere else, go to the internet VPC through this static route. And within the VPC itself, we should now have enough information to go through the VPC, through the NAT gateway, out to the public internet. So I think what we can do, we'll test this before we add this as a static route. So if we go over here, and we can launch an instance. Oops, what did I do? There we go. So finance VPC, we'll put it in one of the private subnets, doesn't matter which one. We'll create a new security group. Okay, we'll remove all the inbound rules. That's fine. Make it GP3. And then just because I'm trying to make myself do this, a couple things here. We're going to go down and say metadata version is version 2. And then if we go back up here, this demo role should give us SSM access to the machine, so we don't have to SSH in anywhere. And then let's just launch that. And then I'll just check that role because I don't remember the role now. We created this through an IAM policy or an IAM, what's it called? We created through CloudFormation in an IAM template. There we go. And I just don't remember what we added to it. Yeah, so it's just the SSM managed instance core, which would give us enough at least to get to the machine using Session Manager. The other thing I guess we could do, let's test this too. We'll go over to the VPC, and then we'll go to somewhere in here. There's a network manager now, and they keep moving it around. I can never find it. Here it is. And then we can go. Where is it now? To the Transit Gateway Network Manager. I think this is it. We should have a network, yeah. We probably, yeah, we don't have any transit gateways anymore, so we can add a transit gateway. This you know what I was thinking, we could turn this into a lot of other stuff, content. Like we could go in here and, you know, create the network manager view all programmatically as well. But for now, pending. What this will allow us to do, at least test the routes. So from something in the finance VPC, do we know how to route through the transit gateway, through the other VPC, the internet gateway, or sorry, the internet VPC out to the public internet. So it's just it's an easy way to check some stuff. So we can go now. Is it Transit Gateway Network? Yeah, you want to go to Route Analyzer. And then we can select an attachment, which is finance. I don't remember. What is the IP range for finance? So it's 1099. So it doesn't matter. We'll just say 1099 10.10. And we want to go through the internet attachment to 8.8.8.8. So if I at least have the routes correct here, it should have a forward route and a return route. I have a feeling we're missing something, but let's see what it does. Okay, so we've got what you're seeing here is the forward path and the return path both are marked connected. So that means we know how to flow through the transit gateway to 8.8.8 and back. So in theory, that means if we go to EC2, we find our running instance. There we go. We can connect to it with Session Manager. So that means that this guy has access to the internet. So the only thing that we did here, I'm going to blow this up immediately because I don't want to leave it here. Okay. The only thing that we did extra was we went and added a static route. So we went to Transit Gateway Route Tables. We went to Finance and we put in a static route here saying, hey, if you're trying to go anywhere, the 0 route, go talk to this attachment. So that's the only thing that we have to codify. So I'm going to leave it here for now, just if I need a memory jog. But what we can do is we can go back now and we need to do propagations. Actually, is it a propagation? No, it's not a propagation, it's a route. So what we could do is here, those are VPC route tables. So what we need to do is add a route to the transit gateway route table. And I think it's just AWS EC2 transit gateway route, but let's check. Yeah, that's it right there. Okay. So that's a pretty basic setup. So what we could do is just go here and do this. We'll call it, let's just call this the static internet route. So type is AWS. Right? This depends on the route table. Properties. What do we need here again? We need destination CIDR block, which in our case is going to be this. We need transit gateway attachment ID. I'm just going to put placeholders in. I'm just cutting and pasting these because I don't want to type these giant names. Okay. So transit gateway attachment would be, did we pass that in here? I thought we did. Oh, it's just this. We're creating the attachment right here. So this also then requires the transit gateway attachment to exist first, and then we can just go ref tgw attachment. Okay. And then we need to associate it with our route table, which is just this. That feels too easy, but maybe we're just getting lucky here at the end of this. So let's try this. So we can push that. Actually, let me be careful. Yeah, I'll push that, but we need to go over and clean this route out before, where did it go? Here it is, before this actually runs, because it'll say the route already exists and it'll yell at us. Okay, there we go. So what we should end up here is we should have a static route in finance and marketing that says if you're trying to go anywhere, go to the internet gateway. Okay. So let's go back here. I shouldn't have been so quick on the draw on that EC2 instance, right? Should have left that one. Should have left that running for a bit, so that we could go back and test that it still worked. Should have been the attachments, right? Oh, there it is. So this is just their static internet route. Man, I keep forgetting they've moved this into its own screen, so I keep thinking network manager is on the VPC screen and scrolling, trying to look for something that no longer exists. Here's our route tables. There we go. There we go. And this one doesn't need it because it can use the VPC route table to get to the internet. And then when the return traffic comes back, we know how to get that traffic to the transit gateway, and the transit gateway knows how to route to the VPCs. So that's great. So what we have now is we have basically two VPCs routing all their ingress and egress traffic through a single VPC that's connected to the internet. There we go. I think what we'll do is we'll call it here. But next week, we're going to expand on this a bit, and we're going to put in the AWS Network Firewall, and we're going to put that in its own VPC. And then what we'll do is we'll say all the inbound traffic flows through the internet VPC, through the network firewall to its destination. We'll kind of layer in some new services or some additional services and see how that works. So a bit of a slow start tonight, but we managed to actually get this working. So thanks for hanging out. Father Goblin, go get some rest and stop thinking about AWS for a bit. And we'll be back next week. I'm going to try to get back on a bit of more of a regular cadence. I know we used to do Tuesday nights, but I'm thinking we might stay with Thursday nights. So we'll most likely be back Thursday night next week around 7 p.m. So if you're interested in learning about the network firewall and how you can deploy that using CloudFormation, we'll see you then. All right. Take care. Bye for now.